This is volume 1 of the tracks tape. We're going to take a look at 66 different tracks in this edition. We start off with a look at the Jersey. The South Jersey Oval is the big 5/8 mile clay track, one of the largest weekly dirt tracks in the Northeast. Bridgeport races on Saturday nights. They've been running for about 25 years off and on, mostly on Saturdays. They've tried other nights of the week and have had several promotorships and ownerships, and have been known as one of the top modified stock car tracks in recent seasons. Some of the top drivers from the tri-state area over the past 20 years or so have called Bridgeport home for many years, including Jimmy Horton, who went on to become an ARCA Super Speedway and a Winston Cup driver. Jimmy is back running in the Northeast in the modified division. Kenny Brightbill was a regular at Bridgeport for several years, including being the first champion at the track back in 1972. Billy Pouch has won 500 features in his career in several different divisions and was a top driver at Bridgeport for several seasons. Bridgeport not only has the modified stock cars, but also sportsman and street stocks running on Saturday nights. Now we move along to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania's Silver Spring Speedway, the track which is run by Alan Kreitzer. The 3/8 mile clay oval runs on Saturday nights in the highly competitive central Pennsylvania region, running the Super Sportsman class, which is seen here. This unique division only runs regularly at Silver Spring, the only track to run it in the country on a regular basis. They do travel to a few other area ovals throughout the season. Silver Spring is highly regarded as one of the best Saturday night operations in the Northeast, which was built by the late Will Kreitzer and now run by his son Alan. Silver Spring has been known for their reasonable prices, large fields of highly competitive cars in the Super Sportsman class, which boasts 50 or more cars on most Saturday nights. Also known for the finely prepared surface and the efficiently run programs. So you can see a bit of snow on the ground on this March date as they open in the month of March, and if at all possible, we'll get the show in and started on time. This is one of the most competitive weekly shows in the Northeast, Silver Spring. Now we moving along to Abbottstown, Pennsylvania, and the 3/8 mile high-banked Lincoln Speedway. Well known as one of the top sprint car tracks in the Northeast, running on a Saturday night. Lincoln has one of the most competitive super sprint car fields in the Northeast on a weekly basis, and to bring in the World of Outlaws a couple of times each year to spice things up. Also have the semi-late model division formerly ran there, along with a street stock type class known as Thunder Cars at Lincoln. They've been running the sprint cars for about 30 years now on Saturday nights. And seen there in the number 19 is Steve Smith, who has 150 career wins at the track, announced his retirement at the end of 1996. Smith is definitely one of the top names in all of sprint car racing. And there his son Stevie in the number 77 went on to become a top driver throughout the country in the World of Outlaws circuit in the 1990s. And has many top years ahead of him, I'm sure. Located just a few miles down the road from Lincoln near Hanover, Pennsylvania, actually near the town of McSherrystown, is the Trailway Speedway. This is another third-mile clay oval, with their headline class for the past several years being the micro sprint division, which is seen here. The micro sprints normally compete on Friday nights at Trailway, headlining along with several classes of street stock type cars. They do also run flat track as well as supercross motorcycle racing on other nights of the week at Trailway. Armin Hostetter built the track on his farmland and has been running it for many years. A former sprint car and late model track seen in the 1990s as a place for the micro sprints. Several hundred micro sprints can be found throughout the tri-state area. It's a very popular division for drivers who don't have the budget or are just starting out, and some of them go on to become top sprint car drivers. Next, we move along to another one of Central Pennsylvania's Saturday night sprint car tracks. This is the Selinsgrove Speedway, the big half-mile track located at the Snyder County Fairgrounds in north central section of Pennsylvania. Selinsgrove runs the super sprints weekly on Saturday nights along with the late model division and some street stocks as well. Along with Port Royal and Lincoln, Selinsgrove is one of the 3 Saturday night tracks for the sprint cars in central PA. Taking a look at the late models at Selinsgrove now. This is one of the long-standing and well-known tracks in the area. Now we move back to the state of New Jersey, the Flemington Fair Speedway, located in the fairgrounds of Hunterdon County, New Jersey. Flemington, until the year 1990, had spent 75 years of auto racing as a dirt track, the 5/8 mile square-shaped oval with 4 straightaways. First auto racing there in 1915 was known as Modified Country USA, with the big block modifieds headlining as the main class for many, many years, and was dirt, as I said, until 1990 when it was paved. And we'll be taking a look at the pavement a little bit later. Known far and wide as a very fast, exciting oval for both dirt and now as an asphalt track as well. Now we move up to Fulton, New York, which is north of Syracuse, and their 3/8 mile dirt track known as Fulton Speedway. It's a highly competitive small block modified circuit. Fulton runs on Saturday nights. Hosts one of the biggest races in the country for the small block modifieds each at the end of the season, known as the Victoria 200, which pays now $20,000 to win and draws in some of the top names in the Northeast. Fulton was a paved track under the NASCAR sanction until the late 70s, when it was covered with dirt, and has been running as such on Saturday nights since then. The high-banked 3/8 mile is known for the very wide turns, which allow many instances 4 and 5 wide action to be seen, and has a very large seating capacity with not a bad seat in the house. Plenty of excitement at Fulton. Now we move to the westernmost section of the state of New York, outside of the Niagara Falls, Buffalo area. This is the Ransomville Speedway, the 4/10 mile dirt track. Ransomville competes on Friday nights. Formerly ran the big block modifieds, but for the past half dozen years or so, they've been running small block modifieds as the main division, along with sportsmen and street stocks. Seen there in the number 27J, the orange car is Danny Johnson from the Rochester, New York area, who often competes regularly at Ransomville and he has become, over the past 15 years or so, one of the definitely top 5 big block modified drivers in the Northeast on dirt. This footage was taken during the annual Summer Nationals, which is a high-paying big block modified event held at the end of June. Ransomville has been running the stock cars regularly for well over 40 years. Now we go to Elbridge, New York, which is just west of Syracuse, to the Rolling Wheels Raceway Park. The big half-mile dirt track was a Friday night track for several years, and then in the early 80s it became a specials-only format track, holding many of the big high-paying events for the dirt sanctioned DIRT big block modifieds each season. They hold several events. Sort of a gathering place for the top stars for several tracks to come together and have some big modified races. At Rolling Wheels, leading there in the number 9 from Watertown, New York, is Bob McCready, who has I believe more than 400 career wins as a modified driver. McCready is one of the biggest names in the country. Rolling Wheels was built in 1969 and has been a modified track throughout its existence. And there in the number 6 we see Brad Hearn, who is another of the very big names with about 400 career wins. Brad Hearn comes from Sussex, New Jersey. Got his modified career underway about 20 years ago and has been a force to reckon with consistently ever since. Now we move to the state of Maryland and one of the most well-known tracks in the East Coast. This is the Hagerstown Speedway in Hagerstown, Maryland. Actually located about 6 miles west of Hagerstown near the village of Huyet. Hagerstown is one of the top half-mile dirt tracks in the East and headlines the super late model class on a weekly basis. Known as a Sunday night track for many years, several years back they switched to Saturday nights. Promoted by Frank Plessinger, Hagerstown is well known as one of the top run tracks in the area, and they also hold big events each year for the modifieds and the sprint cars, and even put all 3 of them on one bill at the end of the season in the Oktoberfest, which now includes small block modifieds and super sportsmen as well. It's becoming a bigger event each year. Hagerstown is known for many of the big late model events in the state of Maryland and brings in a diverse field of top stars from many speedways in a several state area for their top shows. Hagerstown runs a long season, which they usually try to open the last week of February and often get that show in and on time as well. And then we'll run in through November. So they have a very long season. Well, if you want to see outdoor racing in the north part of the country on New Year's Day, go to Sandusky, Ohio. The Sandusky Speedway is a half-mile paved oval which annually holds what's known as the Hangover Classic. The first track, I believe, to do so, as there are several tracks throughout the country which now compete on New Year's Day. They have the champagne stock division and the beer stocks at Sandusky. They put all late model and modified type cars in the champagne division. They run together. And for the beer stocks, they have the street stock classes. Located just off of Lake Erie, you wouldn't think of Sandusky, Ohio as a place to go for outdoor racing on New Year's Day, but they do it under good or bad weather conditions. Sandusky also runs the super modified class on several occasions, in addition to their regular late model and stock car classes which run there. Moving to the Niagara Falls Convention and Civic Center. This is in Niagara Falls, New York. 3 times each year during the winter season, they hold the Can-Am TQ midgets. The 3/4 midgets run 50-lap events on 3 Saturday nights. Usually one around Thanksgiving, one in early January, and another one in March. Big crowds come out to break the winter doldrums and see some racing action during the winter season. And Niagara Falls is a very pretty city to visit at Christmas time with all of the lights throughout the city. And of course the falls itself is just a few blocks away. running on the concrete floor of the convention center. Usually a couple of top stars from other divisions will compete in the three-quarter midgets at Niagara Falls each year. Last year it was Joe Gosick, the super modified star, who made it to the Indianapolis 500 in 1996, ran the series. Now we return to Flemington, New Jersey, as the track was paved for the beginning of the 1991 season. This was the hybrid class, which headlined there for the first couple of years under the asphalt, the dirt asphalt modifieds as they were known. They took the dirt modifieds and they converted them for asphalt style racing. That has been phased out as the low slung NASCAR type asphalt modifieds are now headlining there. They also have late models and street stocks at Flemington on Saturday nights. And after a big period of adjustment, which was a big downer for many of the fans who vowed never to return when the dirt left, some of them have, but many new fans have come in as well. And when they saw that Flemington was one of the most highly competitive asphalt tracks in the area, the crowds have started to return to Flemington. Big time racing even coming in the last couple years at Flemington with NASCAR's Super Truck Series, which is scheduled to be there for the third and final time in August of 1997. There in the gold number 60 car is Doug Hoffman from Allentown, Pennsylvania, who started at the Little Dorney Park Speedway back in the 70s. Moved on to the dirt modifieds, became one of the top drivers and still is one of the top drivers in the dirt modifieds, but also mastered Flemington as an asphalt modified star. Hoffman is now once again concentrating solely on the dirt modifieds, but he did dominate Flemington's asphalt for a few years. Now we move to Delaware. We go to the southernmost point of Delaware, just north of the Maryland state line, to the town of Delmar, to the Delaware International Speedway, formerly known as US 13 Speedway. The 4/10 mile clay track, competing on Saturday nights with big block modifieds, headlining the weekly card along with late models, street stocks, and the new rage of the country, the dwarf car class. One of the finest dirt track surfaces on the East Coast for many years, as promoted by Charlie Cathell. They bring in the sprint cars a few times each year as well to throw the clay into the stands. Cathell also has an NHRA sanctioned drag strip, which is located just behind the grandstand of the Oval, which also competes on a weekly basis throughout the summer. The mainstay of weekly racing action in the state of Delaware. Now we move to the Big Diamond Raceway, located outside of the town of Minersville, near the village of Forestville, Pennsylvania, in the coal mine regions of central Pennsylvania. They run on Friday nights, as they have since 1972, with the small block modified class headlining, along with street stocks. Those are going to be phased out, have now been phased out for 1997. They're going to start a new street stock type truck division at Big Diamond to go with the small block modifieds, which have always been very highly competitive. Has a solid field of racers. And the action never stops on the tight track, which had been a 3rd mile until 1994, when it was increased slightly to a 3/8 mile. It's part of the highly competitive Pennsylvania tri-track small block modified circuit. Now we move to another regular Friday night track in central Pennsylvania, this in the north central section of the state. Outside of Lock Haven, this is the Clinton County Fairgrounds. The 3rd mile clay oval competes on Friday nights, as they have since 1989, with the super sprint cars headlining, but has been announced that the super sprints will no longer be regulars in 1997. Leaving the late model class, I believe, as the headline division. And they always have usually about 5 or 6 classes on Friday nights, including a couple of different street stock type classes. They have a dune buggy division there at Clinton County, and on many occasions the micro sprints will come in. Many of the low buck sprint teams who couldn't compete with the high dollar teams at the larger ovals would run at Clinton County, and that is also the case to a large respect with the late models. Here's the unique dune buggy class, which runs at Clinton County. It's promoted by the same promotional team which runs Selinsgrove. Another central Pennsylvania area track, this is the Clyde Martin Memorial Speedway, located near Schaeferstown in Lancaster County, home of the Lanco Micro Midget Club, which is the micro sprint division which competes on Saturday nights at Clyde Martin, as they have for many years. Nothing but micro sprints there, although they have 4 different divisions, and all told they come up with more than 100 cars on a weekly basis in 4 different classes, including the main division, the 250cc 2-stroke class, which is the main micro sprint division seen at most tracks throughout the country. They also have the 4-strokes division, the 125cc's, and the sportsman also. One of the little family type ovals, which remains hidden right in the heart of the big sprint car, modified and country of Central PA, and just keeps chugging along year after year. Clyde Martin. This is Grantville, Pennsylvania's Penn National Speedway. Another of the Central PA ovals. This half-mile dirt track was built by Lindy Vicari in 1971 in the style of the Reading Fairgrounds. Penn National hosting Sunday night action with the small block modifieds headlining, along with street stocks. And the sad news for the many fans is that Penn National will not be running in 1997, at least not on a weekly basis, due to the neighboring horse track moving their Sunday starting times back to later in the day. So weekly racing will not be possible at Penn National due to the much more profitable horse racing next door. A lot of exciting modified action seen over the years at Penn National. Now we go to Bechtelsville, Pennsylvania for the 3rd mile high banks of Grandview Speedway, which is the Saturday night track in the Pennsylvania Tri-Track Small Block Circuit. But here we will be taking a look at one of the invading special attractions which took place at Grandview. Back in 1992, these were the visiting CRA, California Racing Association, wingless sprint cars. Coming in from the West Coast to a couple of the eastern tracks back in the early 90s. Grandview normally runs the small block modifieds along with the limited late models on Saturday nights. It's one of the most successful tracks in the area, with one of the largest fields of headline class cars, as they often have more than 60 small blocks on Saturday nights at Grandview. And they do run the sprint cars on a few occasions each year, usually on a weeknight. Of course, the big event at Grandview each year is the Freedom 76, which is held in September. And there's a big high-paying event for the small blocks. The track opening in 1963, built by the late Forrest Rogers and still promoted by his son Bruce Rogers and family. Now we take a look at the Orange County Fairgrounds Speedway located in Middletown, New York. The 5/8 mile hard clay oval, known as the hard clay. Orange County was a staple Saturday night modified track for many years and continues to be so. Running the dirt sanctioned big block modifieds. They are dropping the small block modified division as a regular class in 1997, but continue to run the sportsman and street stocks. Orange County packing a very large program into their Saturday nights and running the show very efficiently, like clockwork. One race after another. It just got to be too much. With two high-paid divisions, the big and small block modified, so the small blocks are being dropped for 97. This was one of the many battles between Brad Hearn and Danny Johnson, which were seen in the early 90s when Johnson was a regular at the track for a few seasons. Brad Hearn has ruled Orange County for many years in both the big and small block divisions with many championships. Is no longer a regular at the track. Now we move to a very scenic location at the foot of one of the Allegheny Mountains. This is Cumberland Speedway in Cumberland, Maryland, in the mountainous western portion of the state of Maryland. The big half, or the small 5/8 mile, if you will. Running on Saturday nights for several years now with the late models, along with semi-lates and street stocks. Cumberland is one of the many tracks in the area which got a second life, so to speak, as after being shuttered was reopened and is enjoying its best success ever in the 1990s. This is the semi-late division, which competes as the second class at Cumberland, and many of the late model tracks have the semi-lates as their second division. Now we move to the mountains of northeastern Pennsylvania to near the town of Monroeton, PA. This is the Dunn Hill Raceway, a quarter-mile dirt track, which was built in the early 90s. A very Dunn Hill is not a very well-known track by any means outside of the immediate area. Runs on Saturday nights. They have a limited late model class as the main division, along with several divisions of 4 and 8 cylinder street stock type cars. It's bring your own chair or blanket, as there's no permanent seating at Dunn Hill. Many people vacationing in the mountains in the summertime will find something different to do in the mountainous area of Pennsylvania by taking in some racing action at Dunn Hill on a Saturday night. Moving to the East Windsor Speedway in Hagerstown, New Jersey. The track built by Don Jones, opening in 1965. And his son Butch is still running the 4/10 mile clay oval in the central New Jersey area. Running on Friday nights with small block modifieds headlining. These are a unique style of lightweight cars, which compete along with street stocks and sportsmen on Friday nights. East Windsor was a big block track through the 60s and 70s. And then after the 1980 season, they went to the small blocks as a headline division. Some of the top big block drivers will compete on a regular basis at East Windsor, such as Doug Hoffman, Frank Cozy, Chip Slocum, and Kenny Brightbill. With Jimmy Horton also calling the track home many times. Back to the state of Pennsylvania to the other Saturday night sprint track. This is Port Royal, in the town of Port Royal, right in the town. The big half-mile Juniata Fairgrounds Oval. Nowhere do you get the sensation of the high speeds more than you do at Port Royal, where the covered grandstand seating, as well as the concrete bleacher seating, is located very close to the track surface. And the cars traveling at very high speeds, just a matter of feet away, give it a different sensation indeed, with the sprint cars and the late models running there on Saturday nights along with street stocks. Now we take a look at the Linda's Speedway, located outside of Jonestown, Pennsylvania. The quarter-mile dirt oval, home of micro sprint racing on Friday nights, and they draw large fields of 50 to 60 of these cars on a weekly basis. They have 4-cylinder stock car divisions and formerly a dune buggy class, which is now known as the VW Modifieds. These are the 4-cylinder Thunder cars. Linda's is located next to the convergence of two major interstates, I-78 and 81. Here's the dune buggy class, which now sports a modified type body on them. Linda's is another one of those tracks which packs a lot of racing action into a Friday night. And is one of the most well-known micro sprint tracks in the East. This is the 3/8 mile Thunder Mountain Speedway, which is located near Center Lisle, New York, in the south central portion of New York off of Interstate 81. Thunder Mountain opening back in the early 90s as a limited late model and street stock and 4-cylinder type tracks such as Dunn Hill, but then they soon brought in the small block modifieds, and they now run a combined big and small block modified class as their main division, running on Saturday nights at Thunder Mountain. Located in a very scenic, hilly area of central New York. Here we have the 4-cylinder street stock division. Moving to the Susquehanna Speedway in Newberrytown, Pennsylvania, the 4/10 mile red clay oval, which was a Sunday night track for sprint cars for several years. Then in 1993 they switched to Saturday nights with new promotership, bringing in the small block modifieds and introducing them to the area. Build up a solid show. Known as a very competitive track in central Pennsylvania for no matter what class runs on it. And for 1997, big news again at Susquehanna as Vince Vicari, the son of former Reading Fairgrounds promoter Lindy Vicari, has bought the track, will be running it with the small block modifieds, paying a very large purse, also bringing in limited sprints under the Cars organization to run there on a weekly basis as well. And big things are expected at Susquehanna, which is one of the best all-around competitive tracks in central Pennsylvania. located off of Interstate 83, halfway between Harrisburg and York. We move back to the Mechanicsburg area, to the Williams Grove Speedway, one of the most famous dirt tracks in the East and throughout the country. Although they are regularly a Friday night sprint car track, we are showing the dirt-sanctioned big block modifieds here, which competed at the track once a year for several seasons through the late 80s and early 90s. Although Williams Grove is known far and wide as one of the most famous sprint car tracks in the country, bringing in the World of Outlaws for a number of shows each year, as well as several other big events for the sprint cars and bringing in special classes for special shows such as the modified scene here. Williams Grove also has their own 358 cubic inch limited sprint class, which they started in 1996. The track has been running since 1939, only stopping for World War II, and running the sprint cars for about 30 years now. Now we go to St. John's, Pennsylvania, which is just north of Hazleton, to the Evergreen Speedway. Evergreen is a third-mile asphalt oval, which competes on Saturday nights with the small block modifieds of the asphalt type as seen here, along with the street stock and late model and four-cylinder type divisions. Evergreen will run on Sunday afternoons until about Memorial Day, then they'll run Saturday nights in the summer and end up Sunday afternoons again after Labor Day. Now we move to the other asphalt small block track in eastern Pennsylvania, which also competes on Saturday nights. Outside of Lehighton, this is the quarter-mile Mahoning Valley Speedway, which opened in the early 70s, ran for a few years, came back after Dorney Park Speedway closed at the end of 1986, a replacement for the Dorney Park cars and fans. Mahoning Valley has been running since on Saturday nights with the small block modifieds, late model street stocks and four cylinders. A very tight track. Always offering a lot of thrills for the fans. Now we move to the country of Canada. This is the Cornwall Motor Speedway in Cornwall, Ontario, located along the St. Lawrence River, just across from where the state of New York meets Quebec and Ontario. Cornwall is a quarter-mile, kind of a flat dirt oval, which runs the dirt-sanctioned small block modifieds on Sunday nights, along with street stock type cars and sportsman division as well. Cornwall's been running quite a few years now, always as a Sunday night track. It's very conveniently located for both the New York and the Canadian fans. Now we move to Fonda, New York, to the Fonda Speedway at the Fulton County Fairgrounds. The small half-mile pear-shaped oval, hosting the big block modifieds under the dirt sanction on Saturday nights. The track's been running modified since 1953. They also have sportsmen and street stocks on a weekly basis. Fonda is under a new ownership in 1997, and the future is a bit uncertain at this point. The home of two of the top modified drivers over the years, Jack Johnson from Duanesburg, who is the top winner there with more than 130 career wins at the track, seen there in the orange number 12A, and also the legendary Lou Lazaro, who has more than 100 wins at Fonda as well. Lou is one of the top dirt and asphalt drivers of the 60s, 70s, and still winning today on occasion. Now we move back to the state of Delaware, the other large weekly oval located in Delaware. This is the Seacoast Speedway, which was formerly known as Georgetown. It's located south of Georgetown, running on Saturday nights with the small block modifieds. Here seen when they were still running the big blocks. It's a large half-mile clay oval. Street stocks and now sportsman cars are running there on Saturday nights, and occasionally they run a limited sprint division. Now we're at the quarter-mile Accord Speedway in Accord, New York. It's a very tight little dirt track located in the Catskill Mountains region of southeastern New York State. The track reopened after several years sitting idle. It reopened in 1992 and runs once again as they did before on Friday nights with the small block modifieds, the headline division. They also have this 1200cc mini sprint class. The mini sprints are larger than the micro sprints. They have a regular midget-sized chassis, but they use the 1200cc engines. Here are the small block modifieds. They also have the sportsman class and street stocks at Accord. One of many tracks which remains open on large part only due to the fact that they use mufflers on the cars, which allows them to still compete amidst complaints from the neighbors. They are allowed to compete only because of township ordinances which mandate mufflers on the cars. Now we move to Brewerton, New York, and the Brewerton Speedway, the third-mile dirt oval, located just north of Syracuse, runs on Friday nights also with small block modifieds. But now for the past few years they've had the big block and small block combined under the dirt sanctioned, running as seen here when the small block modifieds were the headline class. Brewerton also has the IMCA style low budget type modifieds, which are very popular throughout the country and are just coming into the Northeast in the past few years, very slowly growing in New York. They also have dwarf cars and street stocks. Seen there in the number 77 is Dale Plank of Homer, New York, who was NASCAR's regional champion for the past 3 straight years, from 1994, 95, and 96. Moving to Bustine, New York, in the State Line Speedway, located just over the Pennsylvania border in the state of New York in the southwestern corner of the state, the third-mile dirt track. It's one of the northernmost tracks in the Northeast to have the super late models as the main division and not run any modified or sprint classes on a weekly basis. State Line has the late models, limited late models, and a couple of street stock type classes with very huge fields which sometimes number the 200 range for weekly Saturday night competition. And all competitors get to run in a feature event, so as you can imagine it is a long Saturday night at State Line, with sometimes upward of 100 cars just in the spectator stock division, and 4 features are run for that class. Seen there in the number 14 is Dick Barton from Asheville, New York, who has dominated at State Line and its sister track Erie's for about the past decade. The Siemens family running the State Line and Erie's tracks very successfully in the northern PA, southern New York area. Not well known outside of the immediate area, but very successful. Now we go to the Sportsman Speedway, which is located in the village of Elk City near Knox, Pennsylvania, just off of Interstate 80 in the western portion of the state. Sportsman's was built by Sam Caldwell, who still runs it on his farmland. The quarter-mile dirt track. Has big block modifieds, super sprint cars, and also a limited late model division, as well as street stocks. Ran mostly as a Sunday night track, and then in 1996 they switched to Friday nights. Weren't too successful, and now are going to try Saturdays in 1997. Sportsman's was known as running a very fast-paced show, getting the fans home early on Sunday nights, but will, as I said, will be now running Saturdays. Now we're at the big Bedford Fairgrounds Speedway in Bedford, Pennsylvania, located in the Allegheny Mountain section of western PA. Bedford is a big half-mile or small 5/8 mile oval. They run on Friday nights regularly with late models headlining. Semi-lates and street stocks also running on Fridays. Bedford has enormous crowds during their annual fair. Yet another Friday night dirt track in Pennsylvania is the Path Valley Speedway, located in Spring Run, about an hour west of Harrisburg. Path Valley has the micro sprints as their main division. The wide quarter-mile oval has been running for about a decade on Friday nights now. Four-cylinder late models and stock cars also compete with the micro sprints regularly. Occasionally super sprint cars will come in to run at Path Valley. For some wild action on the small bull ring.
Honda and Signia. I used to race against those guys.
This is the Riverhead Speedway, which is located on the eastern end of Long Island in the state of New York. It's the only major track still running weekly on Long Island. The quarter-mile asphalt oval. One of the few remaining tracks to still run weekly with the NASCAR asphalt modifieds. Riverhead also has a number of late model and street stock classes, including a figure 8 division on Saturday nights. Seen here is one of the NASCAR modified tour races, which bring in the top drivers. Now we go back to northeastern Pennsylvania to the Moc-A-Tek Speedway, which is a quarter-mile dirt track located in Lakeville, close to Lake Wallenpaupack. His lesser-known rural area track runs on Saturday nights with small block modifieds, sportsmen, and street stocks. Not too far north of Moc-A-Tek, we go to the Penn Can Speedway in Susquehanna, Pennsylvania. This is located near the northeastern most corner of the state at the New York border. Penn Can runs on Friday nights with big block and small block modifieds combined, along with a limited late model class and street stocks. The third-mile dirt track has been running on Friday nights for quite a number of years now. One of the few big block tracks in the dirt tracks in the northeast area which still remain unsanctioned by the dirt organization. This was taken during their annual season-ending big race called the Spectacular. We move to the Finger Lakes region of New York State, to the Canandaigua Speedway, a half-mile flat dirt track at the Ontario County Fairgrounds. Canandaigua runs the dirt-sanctioned big block modifieds normally on Saturday nights, as they have done for about 2 decades now, with the sportsman and street stocks as well. It's promoted by Glenn Donnelly, who's the head of the founder and the president of the DIRT organization, which sanctions modified racing at more than 20 tracks throughout the Northeast. The nickname for Canandaigua is the Land of Legends. And some of the most successful dirt modified drivers of the past 20 years call Canandaigua their Saturday night home, including Bob McCready, Alan Johnson, and often Danny Johnson is a regular there as well. Of course, the first big name to write the record books at Canandaigua back in the 70s was Floridian Will Cagle. Now we move to another of the most famous tracks in the East. This is the Lernerville Speedway in Sarver, PA, located north of Pittsburgh. Running on Friday nights and continuing as one of the few tracks, or only tracks now, to run the big block modifieds, super sprints, and super late models on a weekly basis. They still do so on Friday nights. Also have a street stock division. Lernerville brings in the World of Outlaws each year. Was opened by Dunn Martin in the late 60s. The late Dunn Martin, who was well known throughout the country as one of the top promoters, who passed on a few years back. And the track is still successfully run on Friday nights. Now our first look at the southeastern part of the country as we go to I-85 Raceway, located in Greer, South Carolina. The half-mile red clay oval. At this time was not running the super late model division weekly, as they have done off and on, but had several classes of street stock type divisions. The track, located about halfway between the major cities of Charlotte, North Carolina, and Atlanta, Georgia, just off of Interstate 85, is no longer in operation, I believe, the last couple of years.
exactly what? I've got to put it in the middle. Oh, sweet Blaine.
Now we're at the Concord Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina, which is located east of Charlotte. It's a half-mile tri-oval, triangular-shaped asphalt track, which runs a lot of big races for the late model class. Now we move to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. Each January and late January they hold big race for the USAC midgets, known as Thunder in the Dome. Running on the concrete floor, the 1/6 mile oval. Thunder in the Dome has many top names in racing from around the country each year running in their classic event. We see now Winston Cup star Jeff Gordon, the former USAC champion. Al Unser Jr. is the celebrity race flagman for the carts. It's a big show in Thunder in the Dome at the Hoosier Dome, as they will run 40-lap features, one for 24-car Team Indiana and another for the 24-car Team USA, drivers from the rest of the country. Then they take the top 12 finishers from each, and the 24 will run the 100-lap main event. Seen there is legendary Pappy Huff, who passed away about a year ago at the age of 93. This is taken at the Pennsylvania Farm Show Arena in Harrisburg, the main arena with a 1/10 mile dirt track. Annually they hold micro sprint races during the Motorama Show at the Farm Show, which is held in February each year. Very tight quarters, even for the little micro sprints. Excellent viewing from the very steeply pitched seating. And if the weather's bad, it offers a break from the winter and get in some racing action if they can't get in the racing action outdoors with the early season openers at Lincoln and Hagerstown. The farm show has been hosting micro sprints for quite a number of years now. Now we go to Budds Creek, Maryland, and the Potomac Speedway, the 3/8 mile high bank dirt oval, home of Friday night action for late models, semi-lates, and street stocks of a few different varieties. A few years back, Potomac went to a slightly more limited late model division. They don't have the super late models anymore. Track is located in extreme southern Maryland. Potomac hosts the URC Sprints each year for something different. And now we go to Weedsport, New York, in the Cayuga County Fair Speedway, the flagship track of the dirt organization. It's where it all started back in the 70s. Glenn Donnelly's Weedsport Speedway, known as Cayuga County Fair Speedway for the past decade. Running on Sunday nights with the big block modifieds. On the 3/8 mile high bank dirt track, sportsmen and street stocks also compete at Cayuga County. A lot of close action on the bull ring. This track is located west of Syracuse and just a matter of miles from Rolling Wheels, which we saw earlier. This is the Old Dominion Speedway in Manassas, Virginia, which is located west of the Washington, D.C. area. This is a long-standing NASCAR sanctioned track. We've been running for many years. Holds the asphalt late model stock cars on Saturday nights, along with a number of street stock and four-cylinder divisions. The 3/8 mile asphalt oval, On this night, they had a special appearance by the Mid-Atlantic Modified Tour at Old Dominion, the low-budget modified class. Now we go to the Clearfield Mountain Speedway, located near Clearfield, Pennsylvania, in the mountains of west central PA. The former dirt track was paved in about 1986. The spacious half-mile oval runs the super late model division as the main class on Saturday nights now, as they were running at the time on Sunday nights for many years. Along with a limited late model division, I believe, and street stocks. Not only do they have a very good viewing from the grandstand, but also a very popular drive-in viewing section from the hill overlooking the third turn area, where many of the fans watch from. Clearfield as a dirt track had modifieds back in the 70s. This is the Banana Speedway. It's a kart track located in Strode's Mills outside of Lewistown, PA. Normally a kart track, but on occasion they brought in the micro stocks. This was the Micro Dirt organization, most of them coming out of the New Jersey area. The kart type cars with the modified type bodies. The little 8th mile kart track perfectly suited to the micro stock cars. Micro sprints actually ran at the track back in the 80s for a time, but it has been mainly a kart track for the past 7 or 8 years. This is Ace High Speedway, which is located south of Conneaut, Ohio, which is in the northeast corner of Ohio, near the Pennsylvania border. This track was formerly known as Speedway 7 and Raceway 7 for a time. Has been known as Ace High for the past several years, running on Friday nights. The late models are the headline class, along with limited lates, street stocks, and a economy type modified division known as the E-Mods. The big block modifieds were regulars here until several years ago. And on this occasion here, a video, we're making a special appearance back in 1993. One of their last appearances at the track. The 3/8 mile high banked dirt track is in Ohio, but actually part of the western PA scene. It's one of those border tracks. Located in East Smethport, PA, is the 30-mile flat dirt track, the McKean County Fair Raceway. Along the northern tier of Pennsylvania, McKean County runs late models on Saturday nights, along with limited late models. These econo-mod or limited sportsman type cars, and the street stocks. King County's been running since the early 80s, I believe, on Saturday nights. Now we go to Watkins Glen, New York, for the famed Watkins Glen circuit. The big road course, which was internationally famous with sports car and Formula One events back in the early days, hosting the NASCAR Winston Cup Series for the past decade. On this occasion, the Busch Grand National North Series was to run, but with the rain, they were not able to run, but we did have the other sports car divisions which could run in the rain on the big 2.5-mile road course. This is the S's section of the course. That's the Oldsmobile Pro Series.
And then first place flat, boy, you don't see one down. 93, Mike Borkowski, both of them aboard Shannon.
Watkins Glen, located in the Finger Lakes section of western New York.
Smith, his first win. Tremendous effort. Congratulations as the champagne flies. This is one of those situations where you get wet, you don't know it. Nice job. All right, with that, we're going to let the ceremonies conclude down here. We'll be heading back upstairs. Remember, we have a break now. Qualifying at Dover down.
On to Lafargeville, New York. This is the Can-Am Speedway, a half-mile dirt track with dirt-sanctioned small block modifieds on Saturday nights. Can-Am is located not far south of the Thousand Islands Bridge, which leads into Ontario in the northern section of New York. Along with the dirt small block modifieds, they have the dirt sportsman, limited late models, street stocks on Saturday nights. A couple of big block specials as well each year. Track opened, I believe, in the mid-70s, replacing the old Watertown Speedway. And it was one of the tracks where Bob McCready of Watertown got his start and was a big winner in the small blocks back in the 70s at Can-Am. Now we're at the Challenger Raceway in Jacksonville, PA, the Western PA track located near the city of Indiana. Opened in 1993, or 1992, I believe, actually. This was taken in 1993. The track was a 3/8 mile dirt oval, which also has the quarter-mile track seen here is run by the micro sprints, utilizing an inner third and fourth turn for the micro sprints and the quads, while the modifieds and the pure stocks ran on the outer 3/8 mile. They did away with the quarter-mile track after a year or two, and all divisions run on the outer track now. Challenger Raceway competes on Saturday nights, and they no longer run the modifieds as seen here, now headlined by the late model division on Saturdays. One of the most competitive late model tracks in the Western PA area, holding a number of special events which draw in some good diverse fields of cars. This was the visiting Western Pennsylvania Sportsman Modified Division. Now we go to another of the border tracks of the Western PA region, actually located in Ohio, but named after the Western Pennsylvania city of Sharon, the Sharon Speedway in Hartford, Ohio, just over the border. The half-mile dirt oval. Which had become a specials-only track for a number of seasons. It's back as a weekly Sunday night track in 1996. Seen here with the Stars-sanctioned late models and the big block modifieds. Sharon has the big block modifieds on Sunday nights along with super sprint cars. And the pure stocks, I believe the E-mods, and they're starting off the micro sprints at Sharon as well. Sharon is one of the tracks where the legendary Lou Blaney excelled in the modified division for many years, and still is one of the top Western PA modified winners to this day. Lou's the father of two very successful sprint car driving sons, Dave Blaney, former World of Outlaws champion, and the younger brother Dale, who was the champion in the All-Star Sprint Series for a couple of seasons. In fact, Dale picked up his first career sprint wins at Sharon, I believe in 1990, and went on to big success from there. Now we move up to the state of New Hampshire and take a first look in that state. And way out in the pines we go for the Norway Pines Speedway, located in the forests, the central part of New Hampshire state. The 5th mile dirt track is a very little known oval, which runs on Saturday nights. Has this wild kind of unlimited sportsman division, which allows wings and even sprint car chassis competing, and sometimes wings on coupes. They don't get up much speed, but they have a very close racing action at Norway Pines. Along with the sportsmen, they have a limited late model division, street stocks, 4-cylinders, and they even have a pickup truck class, which they ran before the super trucks were popular. As seen here, including El Camino type cars. Norway Pines is located near Wentworth, New Hampshire. A trip to Norway Pines is kind of like a trip back in time in many ways. Another rural northern New England track that runs on Saturday nights. This is the Bear Ridge Speedway in Bradford, Vermont, located just over the border from New Hampshire in the northern part of Vermont. Bear Ridge is known as the home of the coupes, and they still include a 6-cylinder coupe division on their regular Saturday night card. Has a small but loyal following of cars. They have the small block modifieds as the main class, along with these coupes. Then they have limited late models and street stocks. Bear Ridge is one of just 3 active tracks in the state of Vermont. A quarter-mile dirt track. Now we move to the Heston Speedway in Heston, Pennsylvania, in the central part of the state. Reopened successfully in 1993 after being shuttered for more than a decade. And Heston has been running ever since on Saturday nights, headlined by the semi-late division, along with street stocks and 4-cylinder late models. A unique division to Central PA as seen here, the 4-cylinder late models. Heston was a late model track back in the late 70s. Had a successful rebirth in 1993. It's located south of the town of Huntington, Pennsylvania. Another central Pennsylvania area track that runs on Saturday nights. This is the Hill Valley Speedway near Orbisonia. The quarter-mile dirt oval runs on Saturday nights for about the past decade, with the micro sprints, the top class on a weekly basis. They run several events each year for 4-cylinder sprint cars, which are a full-bodied sprint car with a 4-cylinder engine. Four-cylinder stock cars also compete at Hill Valley. Now we move to the state of Massachusetts, to the Riverside Park Speedway in Agawam, Mass. Quarter-mile asphalt oval is located inside the Riverside Amusement Park along the Connecticut River in southern Massachusetts, just north of the Connecticut border. You actually go through the amusement park to go into the track, which competes on Saturday nights with the NASCAR Tour type modifieds on Saturday nights as seen here, headlining along with late models and a number of other divisions. There's usually 5 or 6 classes on most Saturday nights. Riverside is the only remaining track in New England to still run weekly the NASCAR Tour type modifieds for that. As most of the other tracks run a more limited or small block modified type division now, as they have for a number of years. Riverside continues with the Tour type mods. Now we move to Seekonk, Massachusetts, the only other major asphalt track running in the state of Massachusetts. Seekonk is just over the border from Providence, Rhode Island. They normally compete on Saturday nights with late models and other street stock classes, but a few times each year they bring in the midget cars from the Northeast Midget Association to run a couple of big events. And Seekonk seems a very well-suited track to the midgets for competitive action, a 3rd-mile circular oval. Known as the Cement Palace. The track is almost entirely circled by bleachers, much of which is cement. Grandstands. And our 66th and final track for this tape is New Haven Coliseum in New Haven, Connecticut, which a few years back held the ATQMRA, the American Three-Quarter Midget Racing Association.